Hello, everyone. How does one that spent time on welfare as a child grow up to be financially successful enough to be able to splurge on a phone game like Empires and Puzzles and own this beautiful home in the Caribbean? Was it the lottery, an inheritance, an insanely high paying job? No, it was not any of these. It was as simple as learning to become financially fluent and sound through basic principles that anyone can apply. Just like I enjoy sharing knowledge that I have learned while playing Empires and Puzzles, I also enjoy sharing knowledge on becoming financially strong through multiple income streams and smart investments. In addition to my books about Empires and Puzzles, one can also find my book, Build $1 Million Net Worth While Achieving Perfect Credit on Amazon. In this book, I detail all the secrets of my financial success. These strategies help me get ahead. Maybe they can help you too. Look for the link in the description below. Welcome everyone to another Empires and Puzzles Books video. Today we are going to be talking about fighting Alfreak or Alfrike or just Freak, however you call her. She is pure evil and awfulness if you have to fight her. She is tremendous and amazing if she is on your side. But as devastating as she can be, she is not invincible, and there are some counters to Alfrike. So let's talk today about how do we fight her. We're seeing her more and more, especially in the rush events, and this is probably specifically geared towards rush events. So since we are seeing every 10 wars, we're having at least 2 back-to-back very fast rush wars. This might be a video that's worth bookmarking, sharing with your alliance, and referring before each of those events. I know in our alliance we talk about all of these counters, at least most of these counters, right before the events, just as a reminder. So we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about the various ways we can counteract Alfrike's power. Now, this video is titled 13 Ways to Fight Alfrike, but because you guys are awesome, I'm going to give you a bonus 14th, which is probably my favorite way to fight her. So we will get there in a bit. So the challenge with Alfrike is she hits hard, she hits random, but really the problem with her is the mindless attack. She just stuns your heroes. If they get to full mana, they fire off on a random ally and they drop their mana. And she also reduces the health. So the initial impact is something that we can withstand. She hits hard, but not crazy hard compared to other heroes. It's those other two effects, the mindless attack and the health reduction. So what we're going to talk about here is how can we avoid that. So again, we're going to jump in here. We're going to look at 14 different ways to battle Alfrike. Let's jump in and look at number 1. And actually, before I get too far ahead of myself and jump into this list, let me just say this list is probably not exhaustive. You might have some heroes or other methods that I have not thought of. So please put those in the comments below. Also, this video is happening at one moment in time, and Small Giant is constantly introducing new heroes. So as those new heroes come out, go ahead and plug those down below, and let's keep an ongoing record as a community of ways that we can battle Alfrike. So again, hopefully I didn't miss anybody, but I'm sure I did, and I am certain you all will be great at pointing out any that I missed. So go ahead, comments, questions, put them below. Thank you. All right, the first way we're going to look at addressing Alfrike is probably my least favorite, and that has to do with dodging and evading. She's coming at you with this crazy attack. Let's see if we can move out of the way. We can do that with ninjas. The more ninjas you have, the more likely they are to dodge and jump out of the way. You can do that with Costume Catalan or Inari or Margaret. And any rogue class hero will have the dodge evade. So if you have them maxed out on emblems, and you will maximize the chance that they will dodge or evade. I'm not a fan of this method because it's not a guarantee. There is still a decent chance that you will still get hit, or at least some members of your team would get hit. And unless you're using somebody like Costume Catalan or that's affecting the whole team, if you're dealing with just rogue class or ninjas, you got to stack the team with them to make sure the entire team has some level of protection. But again, not my favorite way and not one of the methods that I use, but this might be something that works for you. The second way to battle Alfrike is very similar to the first way. In the first way, we were dodging with our heroes. We were trying to evade the hit. The second tip is actually making Alfrike's special miss, which comes from blinding her. So there are 13 heroes that apply blind to the enemy 12 of those are holy, which is great because you'd want to use holy against Alfrike. The only non-holy is Dr. Moreau, who is a dark hero. So if you want to affect Alfrike's accuracy, so she might miss your heroes, you're going to be looking at using Bayoung, Drake Fong, Neith, June or Costume June, Thor or Justice, 4-star Hu Tao or Hu Tao's costume, possibly Danzaburo if you don't mind the randomness of that being selected, and if you're desperate, 3-star Bane costume, but good luck using a 3-star against Alfrike. I wouldn't recommend it. All right, if you haven't gathered what I'm doing already, let me be candid. I'm starting out with the methods that I prefer the least and moving into the ones that I'm more likely to use or recommend that I prefer. So the next one, the third way to battle Alfrike, which is not my favorite, but it is doable, is using taunt. So Krampus, Black Knight, and Queen of Hearts will provide taunt, which basically protects 4 of your heroes from getting hit from Alfrike. But that means the hero that is casting the taunt, Krampus, Black Knight, or Queen of Hearts, is going to absorb all those cubes coming at them. So it's going to be pretty devastating. So it's kind of putting a sacrificial lamb out there to absorb that huge impact to protect the rest of the team. Can work, might work. Maybe it's your choice, not mine. Let me know your thoughts on using taunt against Alfrike. The fourth way to deal with Alfrike, sort of like blind and dodge, it's a little inconsistent, and that's using counterattack heroes like Alina, Boss Wolf, Obakan, and Sif, or even Boral or Cyprian. The challenge with using those heroes is they're only adding that counterattack to 3, themselves and nearbys. The only heroes that add it to everyone, it's less than 100% reflect, so I would not be as inclined to use those. So obviously the challenge is if Alfrike's random cube misses the counter attack, it's kind of a failed weapon. So it's a little bit of a risk using those. If you do use those, do not use them with heroes that provide blind or dodge, because the last thing you want to do is for her to potentially hit the target but then miss from the dodge or the blind. So if you're going to go the counterattack route, go the counterattack route. You might want to kind of double down and maybe use 2 of these heroes on both flanks so everyone is potentially covered so that all cubes get counterattacked back to Alfrike. Again, not the one that I would use, but it is definitely doable. All right, number 5 is actually a very specific hero, and that is Poseidon. If Poseidon's special goes off, all allies are going to resist new effects that block usage of special skills for 3 turns, and they also resist negative mana effects for 3 turns. This is something that's unique to Poseidon. He's also holy, which makes him an excellent choice to use against Alfrike, and he is doing this for the entire team. You can get a similar effect by chance through the Cleric special. So Cleric heroes are also good because they do provide a solid chance of preventing the same type of skill limited use as Poseidon. The challenge with clerics is they don't do it for the whole team. They're only doing it for themselves. So you'd almost have to stack clerics to make that a viable option. Number 6 is also a specific hero, and that is Melosi. When Melosi goes off, you strike Alfrike with Melosi as the target. She cannot cast any new status effects or stacks or enemies on allies. So she's just not putting any kind of effect out there, so she is completely neutered. Now keep in mind, as I'm going through these and mentioning specific heroes, there are going to be new heroes introduced that might have similar or the same special skills. So as you learn these ways to attack Alfrike, keep those in the back of your mind so that you can apply them to any new heroes that come out. And again, if you see those or you note those, throw them in the comments below so that anybody watching this video in the future can kind of scroll through the comments and get an idea on some new heroes. So that brings us to the next special skill, which is pretty great at literally halting Alfrike, and that's the power of silence. So this would come from Mickey, 5-star ice hero Mickey, 4-star nature hero Peters, or the other nature hero Tetacook, if I'm saying that correctly. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong below. But those three heroes silence the enemy for a number of turns. Now, she might still have her mana built up, and when that silence come off, it could be deadly. But it might be worth looking into using heroes like Peters, Mickey, and Tetacook. Okay, number 8 here, we're going to be talking about two heroes that are very powerful for fighting Alfrike, and that is 5-star Dark Hero Hell and 4-star Dark Hero Proteus. They limit all mana generation, 100% reduce mana generation for several turns. So if you can get, especially in a very fast tournament or war, if you can get Hell or Proteus off before the enemy's Alfrike goes, you can stun her for quite a bit and not be able to gain mana while you're getting mana for your heroes. This is especially effective if she's the tank, because then you can kind of send tiles into her without any risk of her immediately launching back at you. Now, I have another video up here about heroes that should never be used together. So you want to be careful using like Hell and Proteus with some of the other heroes we're going to be talking about that affect mana, because some of those heroes we're going to want the mana to increase, and we're going to get to that in a moment. So just keep that in mind, that some of these heroes we're not going to want to use together. And I'll try to be a little more clear about that as we go through. But for now, let's just concentrate on 100% mana blocking from Hell and Proteus as a viable option to fight Alfrike. Number 9 is a pair of 4-star heroes from Grim Forest, and that would be Hansel and Gretel. If you smack Alfrike with Hansel or Gretel's special, as long as you can get her up to full mana within the next 3 turns, she'll do damage to herself and her mana gets cut in half. So if you can keep repeating that, that's a good way to beat up on Alfrike without having her ever actually fire her special. Number 10 has a big list of heroes that will cut the mana of the target. So we're talking about heroes like Neith, Mitsuku, Jade, Guinevere, Leonidas, 4-star Lai Zhu, Carol, or Chao. When they strike an enemy, they cut some of their mana away. It can be very effective in a very fast tournament where you need to try to stop the enemy's specials from going off. You can also do this with Lady of the Lake. Might not be quite as reliable, but Lady of the Lake's minions will cut mana at the end of each turn. So if you can get the minions there and keep them alive, and they happen to strike Alfrike, it's not quite as directive as these other heroes. That is another way to cut her mana that will prevent her from going off and buy you some time. All right, when we're looking at number 11, we're looking at some newer specials that came out in the last year or so. And those are the heroes that will put a status effect on your team to prevent them from receiving new status effects. So they're status blockers, status effect blockers. So they're ailment blocking. They're not allowing the enemy to put anything on you. Garnet is by far my favorite to use against Alfrike. I like Garnet. I think she's one of the strongest healers in the game. But you can get her off pretty quickly even in a normal fight. And if you time her right so that she protects the entire team, Alfrike will still do the damage from her initial hit, but reducing health and adding the mindless attack is not going to happen. Now, there are other heroes that do this too, just like Garnet, and that would be Vonda, Grazul, the recently released Emilio, and Guardian Gazelle does this as well for the 4 dancers, but I believe she is still susceptible to attack. So go ahead and block those status effects, and you're going to take away a lot of the power that comes from getting hits from Alfrike. Number 12, we're going to talk about removing the ailment from Alfrike. Now, there are lots of heroes available that remove ailments, but it's risky to use them because if they receive the mindless attack, they're not going to be able to have their special fire and remove the ailments. The one exception to that is Francine. If you happen to have Francine, she can be a go around with that because she sort of removes ailments in advance for the next 3 turns. Now, she does it at the end of the turn, so you're going to have some damage in there, but that mindless attack is going to get taken away at some point. All right, we are to number 13 as promised, and this is by far my favorite way to fight Alfrike, or at least it was until we come up with number 14, which we'll get to in just a moment. So number 13, my favorite way to fight Alfrike's mindless attack is with Alfrike's mindless attack. That's right. Fight fire with fire. Get your own Alfreak fired up and smack their Alfreak first, and then go ahead and get her up to full mana so she attacks herself and drops that mana down. If you don't have Alfreak, maybe you happen to have past hero of the month Zoc or Merlin. They both also do mindless attack, and they can be great fun to hit Alfreak and kind of stump her with her own weapon. So that's pretty much why number 13 has been my favorite, because you're using such a devastating special right back at her. Now, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you might be able to guess number 14 because it is my new favorite hero available in the game. Number 14 is a specific hero. Only one hero is doing this at the time, and that is Lepiota, and that is ghosting the enemy. You get Lepiota fired up, you ghost Alfreak, who is often a tank in Rush Wars, and you suddenly have a ghosting lane to build up tiles and get mana to the rest of your team, and Alfreak is just gone for a bit. You get a bunch more tiles fired up, and guess what? Alfreak pops back and you hit her with Lepiota again, and you just keep making her disappear. I've done that enough to one Alfreak already that she just died from Lepiota's attack and the damage that she receives while she's ghosted. So that wraps up this video, and the ways, at least that I'm aware of, to effectively battle Alfreak. If I missed a hero, if I missed a special or a talent or skill or something that you think is viable, let's have a conversation. Let's get this dialogue going. Alfreak is intense, but she is beatable. Put it in the comments below. Thank you for watching.